Nigeria's Senate has officially passed a constitutional amendment bill aimed at establishing state-level police forces across the country. The proposal cleared the required two-thirds majority threshold following a detailed clause-by-clause review and a recorded manual vote among lawmakers. Proponents of the reform believe that decentralizing the police force will bring law enforcement closer to local communities. It will also enhance intelligence gathering, and it also allow for faster reaction to emerging security threats at the grassroots level. Well, on the other hand, opponents have raised alarms about the potential for misuse, warning that state governors might weaponize these forces to intimidate political rivals, also to suppress dissent or sway electoral outcomes during periods of heightened political tension. With Nigeria grappling with persistent insecurity in various regions, many citizens view this move as a significant and perhaps overdue shift in the nation's approach to public safety and federal governance. Now, the central question remains this, and in your own view, will the creation of state police force genuinely strengthen Nigeria's security framework? Or does it pose new risks to political neutrality and fundamental human rights? Why, if you would answer that question? Well, joining me is an economist and public affairs commentator, Comrade Ignatius Ofino. Welcome to the agenda this morning.
Good morning, Mazi Chike Ogbogu.
It's good to have you on the agenda.
I'm delighted to be here this morning.
State police. Now, the major question, which I'll be posing to you now, in your own view, do you think the creation of state police will genuinely strengthen Nigeria's security framework? Or do you think it poses a new risk for political neutrality and fundamental human rights?
Two different answers to the same question.
Okay.
Now, there is one thing we must understand. When we are talking about the police system, what does it mean? The police is a security agency established by government to maintain law and order and to guarantee what we call internal security over the lives of the people and their property. When we look at Nigeria as a federation, we have what we call a centralized police system. But the fundamental question to ask is this: why is it that the centralized police system in Nigeria failed? What is the root cause of that failure? That is the fundamental question to ask. When you look at the Nigerian central police system, does it really reflect nationalism? Because there has been a problem on ground in the first instance. One, the recruitment exercise based on quota system.
Okay.
So when you're talking about quota system, it simply means what? Allocating recruitment slots based on states, based on tribe, based on geographical region. But when you look at Nigeria as a country, it is a complex society, and there is a populist ideal that is being promoted in Nigeria. And what is that populist ideal? Unity in diversity. So when you are talking about a centralized police system, it should reflect what we call nationalism. It should reflect what we call national identity. But we got it wrong because we decided to introduce what we call the quota system rather than merit or meritocracy. Now, when you are talking about the quota system in the Nigerian police system, it has affected a lot of police operation in this country. Now, when we are talking about appointment of senior ranking police officer, the president is saddled with that constitutional responsibility to appoint the Inspector General of the police. He can decide to go and appoint a junior officer. When he decides to appoint a junior officer, probably based on what we call tribal sentiment or religious sentiment, senior police officers have no choice than to retire compulsorily. It affects, we are talking about the demerit in the central police system of Nigeria. Now, again, when you look at the centralized police system in Nigeria today, we have discovered that states that do not belong to the ruling party, sometimes the ruling government at the center decide to fight against such states, especially when there is what we call political elections, which we have seen in this country. So there has been a problem when we are talking about the central police system. The centralized police system would have been the best for this country based on our complexity and peculiarity. But it was being abused by the ruling government. Now let me give an example again. Look at the up-cycle election. During up-cycle election, if that state does not belong to the ruling government will now try to mobilize and deploy large numbers of police officers to that state in order to rig election. We have seen it happening in this state when the federal government is using the federal police to intimidate voters, to rig election. So a lot of things actually did happen. Sometimes when there is a problem in a particular state and the governor does not belong to the ruling party, sometimes security is being compromised. When you look at the centralized police system in Nigeria, we have what we call the zones. When you look at the police operations in Nigeria, we have the Inspector General of Police. We have the DIG, Deputy Inspector General of Police. We have the Assistant Inspector General of Police. Look at the hierarchy. Who had various zones and formation. We have the DPOs too. We have the Commissioners of Police. We have the Assistant Commissioner of Police. We have the Deputy Commissioners of Police. Based on the way the formation is being arranged, up to the lowest level, DPOs are there, and yet we are still having high level insecurity. Then you ask ourselves, what is really the problem with us?
Is it about the ranks or about the workforce, the strength of the workforce?
When you look at the workforce itself, the police that is actually protecting the lives and property of Nigeria, they are few. Do you know sometimes when you look at our population, when you look at the Nigerian population, almost 250 million persons. When we look at the police personnel, they are not up to 400,000. So probably one police officer to 10,000 citizens. We have to be frank and sincere to ourselves. There is nothing wrong about a centralized police system. There is nothing wrong about trying to decentralize the police system. But what we are getting it wrong is the abuse of power by the political class. Do you know that in Nigeria today we have what we call the VIP police? The police that is protecting what we call the political elite. The VIPs in this country.
You mean the special protection?
Yes, special protection unit.
Okay.
We have to be frank and sincere to ourselves. So when you look at the police formation and their operation in this country, we have a police system that is well organized. But the impact is not being felt. That has been the problem.
Well, Nigeria operates a federal system, but with a highly centralized police force under Section 214 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Governors are chief security officers with just little control. But is this sustainable? We will debate the merits like better local intelligence and response times versus the demerits like abuse of power, ethnic bias, and threats to democracy. I'll be taking questions from our audience, comments and questions on the app X @DominionCast. So quick one, Comrade Rufino, let's start with the merits. What does Nigeria as a country need why do we need the state police right now?
Because the existing structure on ground has failed. So when you are talking about restructuring, it means that the existing structure has failed.
Okay.
So it needs what we call amendment. You can see when we are talking about intelligence gathering, it should be localized. Do you know one of the merits of state police is this? Those who are going to be recruited are probably going to be indigenous of those states. They know the geographical terrain of the state. They know the tribal identity of each local government area within the state. So it's a plus. They know their traditional rulers. They know who and who that are members of that state, that are true indigenous of the state. They also know those who we call strangers. It's one of the plus. But the state police, we have to be frank and sincere to ourselves. It has a lot of merit. And at the same time, it has a lot of demerit too.
We're coming there. We're coming there. You know, critics have said that this creation of state police might fracture our unity as a people, as a country. Do you agree with that, or do you see anything in dissonance to that?
No, I agree with the person. I agree with them too. It becomes fractionalized.
Okay.
You know, Nigeria is a complex society. The centralized system of policing would have been the best for us. But because of this issue of tribal and religious sentiment, it was being abused. Let me give an instance. Sorry to digress. When Chief Olusegun Obasanjo was in power, he's a pan-Nigerianist to the core. He's a nationalist to the core. All the appointment was nationalized. But when the late Muhammadu Buhari came into power, he favored the north the more. Presently, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is favoring the southwest the more.
You forgot about Goodluck Jonathan.
No, Jonathan also did the same thing too.
Okay.
We have to be frank and sincere to ourselves. This is not how to run a federation. Though when we are talking about true federalism, it calls for state police. But there is one thing we must also understand as well. Federal police system, state police system. How do you control? How do you introduce what we call checks and balances in order to prevent the abuse of power?
In order for us not to digress, we're still talking about the merits. What are the advantages of this state police?
One of the advantages is what I said the other time, that when it comes to issue of knowing who and who in the state, it will be more easier for the state police. One. When it comes to issue of local information intelligence gathering at the local level, it will be more easier for the police. That's two. Then again, when it comes to the issue of trying to identify the true indigene of that state and those who are aliens or strangers, it will be easier for the state police to handle. But when you look at all of these things, is it going to unite Nigeria the more or divide us the more? Because if care is not taken, state police as well, as it has merit too, can also be used as a ploy to establish what we call ethnic militia in disguise. Then how do you recruit members and women into the police, the state police force?
Yeah, we are coming there. We are coming to recruitment. You see, you were talking about the merits. Now, governors have the powers to appoint a commissioner of police after 65 years or 66 years of our independence. A state governor can now appoint a commissioner of police. But then, taking us to the demerits, the question now is, if the governor appoints a commissioner of police, the federal government exercising its oversight functions will be the one appointing the Inspector General of Police, who then employs the men of the Nigerian police force. Remember, we have the Police Service Commission.
Yes.
Are we supposed to also, because we don't know, we've not had a copy of the framework, the blueprint
Yes.
by the IG. You know, he was given some a period of time to come up with a plan on the state police structure. Now, should the governor also employ, or will employment also come from Abuja? Should there be a state police service commission, same way you have the federal police service commission? What are the intrigues? What are the calculations?
If you are not very careful in this country, we are trying to model up things. We are trying to create confusion for ourselves as a country.
How?
No, you said something that the governor will have the constitutional power to appoint a state commissioner of police. That shows that the state commissioner of police being appointed by the federal government ceased to exist.
According to the new plan.
According to the new plan. The federal government has the constitutional responsibility to appoint the Inspector General of Police.
Yes.
Now, the Commissioner of Police, will he receive orders from the Inspector General of Police?
From the person who appointed him.
From the governor.
Yeah.
There is going to be a lot of confusion.
Okay, because the police is about rank and file.
Yeah, so rank and file.
They have to obey the highest rank.
Yes.
So there will be a contradiction.
There is going to be. We got it all wrong. Do you know that France has a centralized police system, and it did not fail? We should ask ourselves that why is it that in France it did not fail? Why is it that it failed in Nigeria? You know, politicians themselves, they are more interested about what we call personal interest rather than national interest. If care is not taken, it will lead to more confusion. We are trying to solve a problem. We are now introducing more problem. If we are not very careful on this issue of state police. Because sometimes I'm confused. There's nothing. Now, the federal government cannot appoint a state commissioner of police anymore. It's now the governor that can appoint a state police. Now, we are going to have federal police. Are we now saying that the federal police is going to be superior to state police?
Well, we'll leave that until we see the blueprint, the framework, however. But let's still talk about the demerits. Many have feared the governor's police syndrome, saying that the governors might use it to harass opponents during elections, and they might use it to rig elections, even suppress protests too. But history from the first republic, 1963 to 1963, to 1966, is haunting us at this time. Don't you think so?
It is. It is. Because of that Republican Constitution of 1963.
Yeah.
The British who felt that Nigeria should adopt the Westminster Bay parliamentary system of government. They knew what they had to do. They knew why they decided to introduce such a political system for us, based on our own complexities. So now then, we have what we call regional police system. But now we have what we call a centralized police system. When you look at the regional identities of Nigeria, each region have their own historical identities. They have their cultural identities as well too. So when we are talking about the state police now, they know that they belong to the same state, because you cannot recruit someone who is not an indigenous of your state based on security details. You cannot. It's one of the advantages.
Well, many individuals in Oyo, Ogun, Ondo, and the likes have seen how local knowledge could help against ritual killings or farm clashes, farm invasions rather. But they also worry about a governor settling political scores with the state police. So basically, the center point here is the governor. The governor is the focal point, and the governor could use it well or could misuse it. But people are scared that the governors might use the state police to settle some political scores. So are you saying the state policing, we're talking about the demerits, could fan the embers of political chaos?
It's true, it's true.
Yeah.
I agree. The same thing applies to the federal police too.
Okay.
The president, is he not using them against the people?
Okay.
It's there, it's the same thing. We are talking about the politicians.
So since
they are the problem in this country.
Okay.
Nigerians are not the problem. The politicians themselves, they are the enemy of the people. They are the problem in this country. No, when you're talking about the ordinary Nigerian police force, is willing to protect the ordinary Nigerian citizens. But because he received order from the political class, he has to comply with such orders. That is why we are having problem in this country. Now look at the average police officers in this country. Are they well remunerated? Poor funding. The so-called armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, they are well taken care of than the Nigerian police force. Go and look at the police barrack. Compare it with that of the army barrack. The army barrack is well kept than that of the police barrack. It's rather sad and unfortunate. We have to be frank and sincere. Do you know that sometimes they will tell you that the Nigerian police force is not part of the Ministry of Defense? Are we not surprised? They classify the Nigerian police force under the Ministry of Interior.
Let's look at one issue, one major problem, or one major demerit. Now, we're looking at state police, not regional police. Now, could this also create 36 armies, as it were? If it starts now, if it's implemented, we could have 36 state police.
I agree with you. Do you know why I said I agree with you?
It could create 36 armies in disguise. Don't you think it could fan some ember of interstate crisis?
Yes, it's going to lead to that. Look at this issue of interstate boundaries. We have to be frank and sincere to ourselves. State police may work in country A. It may not work in Nigeria based on our complexities and peculiarities. Our mindset has been the problem. Our mindset has been the problem. You know, sometimes I said, how independent is INEC? How independent is the Nigeria judiciary? How independent is the Nigerian police force? They must be constitutionally what? Guided. We have to be frank and sincere to ourselves. Now, let me give an instance. Let's assume someone commits a crime and the federal police now decided to arrest the person. And the governor now discovered that that person being arrested happened to be one of his own political ally. He can from his own state, decide to use his own state police to rescue that person in order to evade arrest. What about that? Have you not seen conflicting court judgment? Federal High Court against State High Court. We have to be frank and sincere to ourselves. Nigeria must not be in a hurry when it comes to the issue of adopting a state police system. Look at our mindset. We have to be frank and sincere so that it does not lead to ethnic profiling and ethnic cleansing. Do you know that we have seen cases in which Nigerian police force aid and abet armed robbery attack? Have we not seen Nigerian members of the Nigerian Armed Forces too, both serving officers and those retired, abusing their office or exploiting Nigerians? It's there. So what Nigerian police need at the federal level is what I call moral rebirth and moral reformation. That is what we need. The federal police system was well structured because now we have what we call district police officer. Do you know how the DPOs? The DPOs are closer to the people. Each major market in Nigeria today, there is usually a police station there, if you notice. It's there. So what is the problem? It's our own mindset. That has been the problem. Now, when you introduce state police now, and you have a corrupt police officer, are you creating solution or you are creating more problem? What the federal government will have done is this: the recruitment exercise is faulty. It should no longer be based on the quota system anymore. It should be based on merit and professionalism, using what we call technology. That was what the federal government would have done. Let us use science and technology to curb crime in this country. Let us recruit more persons into the Nigerian police force. You know that federal police is still better than state police because it's going to reflect what we call national unity rather than faction. information.
You're talking about recruitment, and that takes me to back to what I said earlier, the creation of 36 armies in disguise.
Yes.
Now, there are going to be recruitments.
Yes.
Now, should the federal government be the one in charge of recruitment, or should the state governors also be the ones in charge of recruitment?
There is a conflict.
Okay.
When we talk about state police, it's the constitutional responsibility of the state. When we talk about federal police, it's the constitutional responsibility of the federal government.
So if the governors are meant to recruit state policemen, as it were, if the bill passes through, then the question now is, where is the place for Amotekun? Will Amotekun, especially in the southwest, be integrated into the police force? Do they have the requisite training? Do these state governors even have training schools, police colleges? Or will their recruits go through the federal police colleges before they are redeployed back to Oyo State? Let's use that as a case study.
Mazi Chike Owogo, you are a psychologist.
Okay.
How come you read my mind?
Okay.
Because I'm always wondering. Do you understand? For each state in Nigeria today has a security corps already. They have. One of them is what we call Southwest Security Network, popularly known as what? Amotekun. We have them too. In other states too and regions, we have. So the tendency is there for them to be reabsorbed. So there is a problem on ground. The federal police is there. The state security corps is already there. Then what is the problem? The problem to me, I see it one as this issue of the government lacking the political will to fight insecurity. They are playing politics with human lives in Nigeria. That is where the problem lies. Now, Amotekun to me is like a state police already. It's like a state police already. And yet we are still having insecurity. That shows that state police will not even solve the problem. Later, after the failure of the state police, we will not say, let's go for local government police. We have to be frank and sincere to ourselves in this country.
So if there's going to be a state police, will they wear the same uniform with the federal police?
They are not supposed to wear the same uniform.
Now, each state will be unique in its own recruitment. And
Yes.
its own, so will there be a central uniform for states? Now, will the recruitment, if it's going to come from the governors, will it be for people within Oyo State alone? Or are you also bringing people from outside Oyo State to police Oyo State?
What do you expect? Oyo State will recruit Oyo State indigene.
Okay,
We have to be frank and sincere. You are dividing the country the more.
okay.
That is why I'm in support of a reformed police system. Moral reformation.
So if the state is going to recruit from itself, from within,
Yes.
now, don't you see a detachment from the national unity of Nigeria?
There is a detachment already. So I was so surprised when they said to third. Within 24 hours, I'm still surprised. 146-page document. Now, when a PhD student or a PhD candidate want to present his PhD defense, before that, the internal examiner, who happened to be his major supervisor,
yeah.
we send out PhD thesis to the external examiner 6 months to the date of defense. For them to look at it. I'm talking a minimum of what? 6 months. How come the Nigerian Senate, less than 24 hours, were able to scrutinize 146-page document?
With about 26 clauses.
26, I'm still surprised. Because most of them, I call them sleeping senators. Sleeping.
Are you scared of a lacuna?
There is a lacuna already. We don't want a case in which there is going to be the call for amendment in the future.
Well, it might just be inevitable.
Because I'm still surprised.
Well, we've
It's a
had,
breaking news. I'm still surprised.
We've
They
had-
should learn from the academics.
we have had a robust exchange so far. And clearly, the Merit Center on Efficiency, it centers on federalism and localized security. The Merits, on the other hand, centralizes on the abuse capacity gaps, and democratic erosion. Well, the devil is in implementation and safeguards. That's the devil that we'll be looking at. Well, we'll go on a quick break now. And when we come back, it will be time to get to your messages this morning on the agenda. Stay tuned. Don't go away.
Need a professional space to bring your vision to life? Dominion Television Studios offers state-of-the-art facilities perfect for your next broadcast, commercial, corporate video, or live event. With flexible rental options, cutting-edge equipment, and a supportive team, we provide the perfect environment for high-quality productions. Unleash your creativity. For bookings, email us at marketing@dominion.org.ng. Call us on 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast and on X at Dominion Cast.
All right, welcome back from that break. We've been discussing state police in Nigeria, merits and demerits to our democracy. Before I get to your comments or questions, Comrade Ofino is still here in the studio. I want to get your thoughts more on these demerits, because it seems to be more than the merits from your own perspective.
Yes, state police will divide the country the more. Nigeria become factionalized. Based on our complexity, we need a true federalism, a true federal police system. I remember the federal police system. You know what they introduced of recent because of intelligence gathering. They introduced what called PCRC, Police Community Relations Committee, in order to enhance what called civil relationship between the Nigerian police force and the community in area of what called intelligence gathering. There is what we call digital forensic investigation. So you go by the way of what? Science and technology. It's because the federal government failed to go by the way of science and technology. That is why the issue of federal police system has failed. Digital tracking. Do you know that federal police system is the best for this country? Based on our complexity. I have to be frank and sincere with you. They reflect what we call national identity. When you look at the federal police structure of this country, all ethnic groups have representation. But when you are talking about a state police now, we are going to be having indigene of those states. Now, let me give you an example. The issue of admission quota. They will say state of origin. Mm-hmm. When you are applying for state universities or state polytechnics in this country, you are a Nigerian. But because you don't belong to that particular state, your tuition fee will be higher. Is that not injustice? The same country, the same citizen. So we have to be frank and sincere to ourselves. If we are going to introduce state police, if it's going to take us 2 years, if it's going to take us 1 year, it's better than us doing it hurriedly.
Let's take two issues before we get to the messages. And the first issue is this. In politics, especially let's use Oyo State as a case study, there's been this agitation from the Okeogun axis that they've not tasted the seat of power in Oyo State. Now we're talking of state police. If the governors were to recruit, I hope the zones within Oyo State will have a fair share, so we don't start having issues of marginalization when it comes to recruitment into the state police system?
Marginalization is one of the problems we are having in this country. Let me give you the case of the Indigo. The Indigo has been complaining of marginalization, and which is quite true since the Civil War broke out. I have to be frank and sincere. That is why I am among those people saying that if you say you don't want the Indigo to rule over Nigeria, you don't have any moral right to continue to rule over them. Although I am not calling for secession.
Okay.
We have to be calling for justice.
Okay.
So you raise a fundamental observation. Will the people of Ogun State, Okeogun, not become marginalized? We have to be frank and sincere. I'm talking about the mindset as indigene of a particular state in Nigeria.
So where is the place of non-state actors, especially the likes of the OPC, Agbekoya and all these, in the scheme of things, especially when the state policing system comes into play?
Let me give you an instance. We have what we call state security network or core. We have private security system also in Nigeria today, trying to complement federal police system. But it's rather sad and unfortunate that even within the Nigeria police force, there are traitors among them. That has been the problem. The traitors among them are the real enemy of the people. We have to be frank and sincere. During the days of this man, Lawrence Anini, there was one superintendent of police, deputy superintendent of police, Iyamu. He was involved in aid and abetting. Police ammunition was given to Lawrence Anini and Monday Osumbo during the old days of Bende State. So are we still not having that issue too in the current Nigerian police force? How most of these armed robbers, where do they get those weapons? Most of these ethnic militias, where do they get those weapons? I remember when this man was there, Tafa Balogun, as the IGP. Police recruitment that time, people were paying 40,000 naira to be recruited into the Nigerian police force. Is that not fraudulent? No, I'm just trying to tell you the failure of the federal police system. There was an issue that happened between the Nigerian citizens and NSAS protest. You remember? The NSAS protest, the special anti-robbery squad of the Nigerian police force, how they abuse their office. Nigerian police, are they not still collecting 20 naira? When you ask some of our kids today in crèche and those in nursery and primary school, they are between the Nigerian police and the Nigerian army. Which one do you go for? They will say they like the army more than the Nigerian police. If you ask them why, they say the Nigerian police, they are corrupt. They used to collect bribe of 20 naira. Do you know that when you come to the issue of juicy posting, some police officer will lobby financial inducement in order to get juicy posting. When it comes to the issue of promotion too, we overheard that there are some people who also lobby.
Well, some of these claims are unverified, and
it does happen.
So
it's
let me see
that
them as.
That was why I said there should be moral reformation.
So,
when you are talking about moral reformation, you are talking about moral values.
Well, I will need facts to deal with all those issues, but still, there's this part of the question you've not really touched. Now, how would there be a nexus between the state police, as it were, and non-state actors, non-state security outfits like the OPC, Amotekun, and the likes, and even Iruekun of Chief Sunday Ademo, also known as Igbo? Would there be a synergy? Would there be a nexus within these people?
Centaris paribus, all things being equal, there must be a synergy or a nexus between the state police and non-state actors who are actually complementing the issue of security in Nigeria. Whether it is state police or federal police, what I know is this, that Nigerians' lives must be protected.
Okay, let's quickly touch some comments and questions here. Halima Bello is saying, as a mother and a northerner, I support state police for quicker response to banditry. Federal police take hours or days, but we must have a strong police service, a police service commission at state level with civil society members to prevent governors from using it against critics like in the old regional days. Our democracy is still young. Let's safeguard it first. Well, Adewale Ogunleye from Ibadan here is saying, Mr. Ofino, you speak well on federalism, but in Oyo State, we remember how politics affects everything. State police is good in theory, but with godfatherism and weak judiciary, it becomes a tool for oppression. Let's strengthen the existing force with state recruitment quotas and better welfare first. Well, I think you've
yes, I agree with
you've touched on that already. All right, Mr. Debayo from Bodija. It says the real demerit is funding. Lagos and Rivers can afford professional forces. What about Taraba or Ebonyi? It will widen inequality. Merits exist, but pair it with revenue formula review so every state can stand. True democracy needs equity, not just security. You agree with him?
Yes, I agree with him. But there's one thing I want to say on this platform this morning. Yeah. I want to crave for your indulgence. Nigeria is made up of 6 geopolitical zones.
Yeah.
But there are 4 major socio-cultural organizations in this country.
Number 1.
We have Afenifere, representing the Southwest region. Okay. We have the Ohaneze Indigo, representing the Southeast region. We have Arewa Consultative Forum, representing the Core North. Okay. Then we have what called the Middle Belt Forum, and we have what called PANDEF, Pan Niger Delta Forum, or what called representing the South region. Because in Nigeria today, we are having what we call ethnic agitation. I'm going to give you instances that we must be very careful on this issue of state police. During the days of Niger Delta militancy in the Niger Delta, when Yar'Adua now came in as president and Jonathan also came in as vice president, Jonathan, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua did something. He introduced the amnesty program. He also introduced what called the Ministry of Niger Delta in order to douse the tension. Chief Edwin Clark, who happened to be the leader of the Niger Delta, and Chief Tony Aneni, chairman board of trustees of PDP, they did something that was unique. They went to meet all those militants in the creeks, appeal to them. They listened to them, and what happened? There was the amnesty program in which these youth decided to drop their weapon. That is point number 1. Then for the issue of Afenifere, when Chief Sunday Igboho and Professor Banji Akintoye was agitating for Yoruba nation, Afenifere raised objection that what they are in support is one Nigeria, that they are not in support of breakup. At the end of the day, they downs the tension. When it comes to the issue of Fulani herdsmen, the killer herdsmen, the issue of Boko Haram terrorists, then this issue of banditry, what stopped Arewa Consultative Forum meeting these people, appealing to them that the time has come for them to down tension in Nigeria? They failed in that regard. Then let's go back to the issue of Ohaneze Indigo. There was what we call the Eastern Security Network and the Independent People of Biafra, IPOB. Then IPOB instituted an order, stay-at-home order, in the East every Monday. Ohaneze was unable to contain IPOB in that regard. I'm just trying to tell you something that is very sensitive. Now, when we are talking about state police, will the so-called socio-cultural organization in each region be able to control this state police so that there will not be abuse of power on the part of the governors themselves? Because when you look at most of these governors, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo just said something. He said most of these governors behave like emperors, and which is quite true. So when we are talking about state police today, will it not be abused by the same governors? Now we are talking about ethnic agitations now. And can see where the problem lies. Now, there is relatively peace in Niger Delta. Now, because the so-called PANDEF can be able to control those militants in the Niger Delta. The Yoruba Afenifere can be able to control their own in the Southwest. But Arewa Consultative Forum has failed in checkmating the so-called Northern bandits and Boko Haram terrorists. Because it's beyond Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Won't stop Alhaji Atiku Abubakar and Alhaji Aliko Dangote intervening on this issue, trying to appeal to those bandits from northern extraction. We are talking about the issue of insecurity. If there was no high rate of insecurity in Nigeria, there was no need for state policing, state police system. There was no need.
Because of our time, let's take this message from Engineer Olalekan Jibola from Ibadan. It says, Ristofino, if a state governor belongs to a different party from the president, will federal police still override in crisis, or will we see tough wars that weaken response?
That we are going to experience tough wars that weaken response. We have to be frank and sincere to ourselves. I'm just trying to tell you about what is actually no tribe in Nigeria today that does not have a militia. We have to be frank and sincere to ourselves. Before Nigeria came before Nigeria became a country under the British rule, Nigeria as a country has been existing as what? Independent empires and kingdoms. And each of these kingdoms and tribes have their own ethnic army. It's still there. Why is it that we are still having chieftaincy title? We are still having chieftaincy titles based on that traditional setting. It's still there. So in Yoruba land, we have what called Balogun. When you say Balogun, Balogun means what? What? A war chief, a warlord. So it's there. So we are having a problem in this country. We should go and reform the federal police system. That's the only way to solve the problem for now. But we are saying that let's go by the way of state police system. There is going to be crisis between federal police and state police.
Well, Aisha from Agbowo is saying, how do we protect opposition politicians and journalists from harassment by state police commanded by a sitting government?
It's true. Journalists are being guarded. We have to be frank and sincere. Most of us who speak truth to power, some of the governors don't like us for speaking truth to power. We have to be frank and sincere. She raised a fundamental question. We are talking about the mindset of each individual. Is the mindset of the president, is the mindset of the governor itself. There is what we call constructive criticism and destructive criticism. State police will complement federal police, fine. But when we are talking about their modus operandi, that is where the problem lies. I'm not answerable to the president. I'm only answerable to the executive governor of the state. But when you look at the constitutional powers, the president is stronger than the state governor. So we have to be frank and sincere to ourselves. What the government will have done is this. How do we restructure the federal police system so that it will have a national outlook?
Well, can I take more questions here or comments? No, time is not our friend. Well, for me, in a multi-ethnic states, the question I would put to you lastly is, how do we prevent one ethnic group dominating the state police and marginalizing others? I asked you that before using the Okeogun axis.
Yes.
But going back to it, we'll see that history shows this as a big risk, as it were. You know, one ethnic group within a state dominating, for example, in Cross River State, where you have over 100 ethnic groups in Cross River State, then you see one ethnic group dominating the state police structure, especially when it comes to recruitment. Don't you think it's so risky? And then you could have, even within the state, a civil unrest.
We have more. It has more risk than gain, especially based on the complexity of Nigeria. I'm talking about our complexity. Federal police system is the best for us. For now, I have to be frank and sincere. For now, based on our complexity. Now, the people of Okeogun keep complaining of what? Political marginalization. Do you know why? Because of their numbers. We have to be frank and sincere. You know, there is one thing PDP did. PDP believe in zoning principle. That between the Northern Protectorate and the Southern Protectorate, there should be what called zoning, when it comes to the issue of the presidency, so that there can be what we call justice and fairness. We have to be frank and sincere to ourselves when it comes to this issue of state police. What we have fought for is this: let's go by the way of science and technology. When it comes to the issue of federal policing system, there is no tribe in Nigeria that does not have representation in the Nigerian police force at the federal level.
On a lighter note, when you talked about science and technology,
Yes.
I thought you were talking about African science and African technology.
We can also use African science and Western science and technology.
All right, Comrade Ofino, your final thoughts. Let's set the agenda on state policing.
Nigeria as a country must not take the risk. Because when we talk about the issue of state police, it's an issue that is still controversial and dicey. But what is more paramount is this: the lives and property of Nigeria must be protected at all times.
Thank you, Comrade Ignatius Ofino, for featuring on the agenda today. Well, this has been the agenda this morning on this dial. I am Chike Obogu. I'm saying stay safe, demand better, and have a great day. Bye for now.